We're going to look at this through the political prism now. Eugene Daniels, Politico's White House correspondent, Playbook co-author. Donna Edwards, nice to see you, Donna, former Maryland Democratic congressman. And Dany Diaz, who, if I call you Diaz, don't get mad at me because I've known you as just Diaz for the longest, because that's how you'd introduce yourself. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Eugene, it does feel like the last 10 days, the economic alarm bells started ringing with voters. They're seeing it in polls. I mean, the most remarkable thing I've seen in the last 2 days was when Nancy Pelosi said, yeah, we got to come up with a better economics message in the next 3 weeks. I'm like,
very soon.
Yeah, the clock is ticking.
Going. Yeah. That's one of the things that I think Democrats are a little surprised by, is that they felt really good over the last few months. They felt that things had turned in their favor after the Dobbs ruling. You saw this excitement among Democrats. But then as inflation continued to worsen, when you started to see people, the gas prices went down, but then they went up, they went down. So people just feel like things are chaotic, right? And that is not going to be good for the party in power. And when I was in Georgia, I talked to voters, they brought up Herschel Walker and they brought up that stuff, but they talked about the inflation and the economy. And that's Democrats and Republicans, that they didn't feel good about it. And that's bad for Democrats.
You're going to do a joint anecdote. I'm going to do one too. Donna, I had an independent voter. We were talking about abortion. She goes, look, abortion is very important to me. So is the cost of living. Yeah. And we're starting that I've talked to a lot of other Democratic strategists who said that they're starting to see that even their abortion first voters, this cost of living issue is basically blurring the lines.
Well, I mean, it's a reality check. I mean, when people have to pay for childcare and gas and groceries and they see the cost of that, it's not a surprise that is a top-level concern. I think for Democrats hope that a lot of the economic packages that they passed over the last several months would be enough to carry that economic message. I guess we'll see in 20 days whether that's true, but it's a reality check when you've got to, pay the bills.
Dany, you've been on both sides of this, when the economy can help you in the campaign and hurt you. If I'm not mistaken, you were on McCain 08.
That's right.
The fundamentals of this economy are strong.
Right.
It was a phrase he tried to say, but that's not what people were feeling. And when it's hard to fight. And right now, that's benefiting your side.
Yeah, I just don't believe that the Democrats have any kind of maneuverability this late kind of in the cycle. They've played their cards. They don't have a message on the economy. They're not where voters are, where voter concerns are. And if you look at an undecided voter today, they're not making their decision on Dobbs. They're making their decision on the economy, and those voters are breaking from the Democratic Party. You see the erosion as we get later in the cycle among independents. And the question now isn't whether there's a wave, it's really the size of the wave.
Donna, how would you, because I've heard this critique before, and we've heard, how would you be messaging the economy right now if you were a general election candidate?
Well, I think it's tough. I mean, I think one of the things that I would say is obviously point to the things that Democrats have done over the last 2 years to try to move the economy forward when we were really hammered by a pandemic. I think it's important to acknowledge the pain that voters are feeling. I mean, they don't want you talking about how the fundamentals are good when the gas prices are high, the groceries are high. And I think it's important to acknowledge those concerns of voters so that they know that you're prepared to offer them something for the future.
And Eugene, I remember there's a story. There's some of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party think that Democrats should be messaging on the economy by talking more about the American Rescue Plan, of which Dany and his allies would say, please, talk about that more.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you talk to some economists and they say that the American Rescue Plan did contribute to inflation in certain ways, right? That has been something that Republicans have used and will continue to use, especially if Democrats do that. You haven't seen them. What they do is exactly what Donna is saying. They're talking about, we did the Inflation Reduction Act. We did infrastructure. We will do more. And, I think something that we saw this week is really important. You saw President Biden get in front of cameras and then voters at one point, one talking about, if you give us 2 more senators and you can let us keep the House, we will do abortion for you. We will handle that, and I will sign that bill on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. And then the next day, he's talking about gas prices, right? That is telling voters, hey, this is something that we have already done for you. We will keep fighting for you and working for you. That is their kind of only game to play right now, is that voters feel that they're doing things, even if it's bad.
Dany, let's fast forward. Republicans win the House and the Senate. They will have won it on the economic issue. So then they gotta do something. What is that something?
Well, I think they're going to hold the administration's feet to the fire, particularly on issues such as energy, where a woke agenda has overridden common sense and American supply I think on taxes, we're going to have a conversation on lowering taxes for hardworking families. So I think we're going to stick on the bread and butter issues where...
Is there a penalty for not doing that? Do you think? Like, if they go in there and, start talking about Hunter Biden rather than energy prices, is that a mistake?
Look, I think we can walk and chew gum, but we're going to focus on the bread and butter issues that, candidly, the Democrats haven't focused on.
And, Donna, what would be your advice to Democrats? Look, if this ends up being a loss, it is the economy. No other way to look at it. What would you tell the president? What would you want the president to do?
Well, I mean, I think the president needs to be on guard with the things that the executive branch has control over. And right now, the executive branch has a lot of money that's come out of the things that they've done. They need to begin to implement that. I think voters need to see jobs that are created in the economy around transportation and infrastructure. They need to see some of these things go in place so that there's something to vote on. But I'll tell you, I think there's a strong bent within the Republican Party to do exactly the opposite of what's being said here. They're going to focus on investigations and, being led by the impeachment caucus within the Republican Party. And I think it's going to be a disaster.
Well, it's interesting to go back to what my voter panel yesterday on Independent. What was interesting is these middle of the road voters who are very focused on the economy. They're exhausted from January 6th.
Right.
They're exhausted from this stuff. So it is one of these things. What benefits now, if they're laser focused on energy and taxes, I think they're going to get a little bit of a honeymoon. If they're not, there's trouble.
No, that's a much smarter move. If they do what Dany's saying and they focus on the economy, they go in there and their first HR 1 is on energy, which is what Jim Banks has been saying, representative who will probably be in leadership, then that's going to be good for them, and voters probably will remember that. But what Donna's right, there is a strong contingent in the Republican Party, especially in the House Freedom Caucus, that have been in McCarthy's ear, who will probably be Speaker if they take over, that we want to see impeachment. They've talked about that. They've talked about impeaching not just President Biden. They talked about Secretary Mayorkas at Department of Homeland Security. And so can they chew gum and walk at the same time? Possibly, but there is only so much time to do that.
And I assume this is why it's pretty important for McCarthy to get over 230.
Yeah,
right? The more he gets, the more he can compartmentalize some of these folks.
I think we're looking at a bigger wave than the post-Watergate wave, kind of at the moment. I think all these toss-ups.
That's pretty. You're pretty bullish.
By and large, are going to kind of move kind of in our favor. And the reality is that Biden's going to be in cycle after Election Day, and he's going to be in cycle governing over a recession, if you believe economists. So, he's going to have the kind of bully pulpit, and I think Republicans are going to be talking about bread and butter issues, and he's going to have to answer questions about the economy that he's overseen versus the economy of his predecessor.
Donna, it's interesting if we do have divided government like this. Both are incentivized to do something together. What's realistic?
Well, I think you can go back to the John Boehner and Paul Ryan days and know that there was a contingent of the Republican Party willing to work with Democrats. Democrats put them over the top on a whole range of issues because they couldn't get
government funding.
That's right, government funding, those sort of things. And I think it's going to be. I see the exact same scenario playing out here. That
no big stuff.
No, and when you look at the people who potentially are coming in, they are way to the right. They're more raucous. I don't think Kevin McCarthy is going to have control over that at all.
I'll be honest. The independent voters I talked to, I think they just want nothing to happen.
Yeah.
I think they almost want stalemate. Yeah. They don't trust either party to have total control. Yeah. That's the thing that I keep coming away with. Anyway, Eugene, Donna, Dany, good to see you both. Diaz.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.